All right, let's get it rolling now. The official Colts podcast wages on a Thursday. Great to be with you here on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network. We're talking ball with Casey Vallier, Bill Brooks. I'm Matt Taylor on the Colts Audio Network. And we got a big one coming up this weekend, Week 7. The Colts return home after 12 weeks on the road, seemingly. I'm tired of losing my room key like I did in both Jacksonville and Tennessee.
Wow.
I'm telling you, life is a struggle, dude.
On the road.
If the head wasn't attached, it would be rolling down the sidewalk.
Matt, I don't want to burst your bubble, but you got back-to-back after this one. So
yeah, I know.
Let's
make sure you call the AAA travel agent. All right, frequent flyer miles are rolling up here. But yes, it's great to be home. The Miami Dolphins are up next here in week number 7. Also up next at halftime, fellas, we got Dallas Clark going into the Ring of Honor. It's fantastic. One of my favorite players, just an old school goofball type of guy, lunch pail dude. Right. Came in, did his job, did the dirty work. Bill, I know you have a lot of reverence and respect for number 44 back in the day.
A lot of respect for Dallas Clark, just how he played the game, how he approached the game week in and week out, and just kind of a little old school, what I liked about Dallas. He didn't wear any gloves out there catching the ball, so something that I kind of admired about him. But, yes, definitely deserves it, and a great guy, just a fun guy to be around. Very funny at times, but just a fun guy and a good guy to be around.
Yeah, number 1 all-time in Colts history among tight ends in catches and receiving touchdowns. Number 2 behind a guy named John Mackey in overall receiving yards, Casey Vallier.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When you and Jeffrey Gorman talked to him, I think it was in June, July, when it was announced, and Jeffrey Gorman, very close relationship with Dallas. He said, "You're the greatest Colts tight end ever." He's like, no. John Mackey, if I'm even close in that. So, I mean.
All due respect to John Mackey, right? We're talking modern era football here.
Yes, but, I mean, Dallas Clark understands the relationship or where the company that he is in. And, I mean, to be up there with John Mackey, that's pretty darn special.
Yeah, man. Everybody that gets that phone call loves it and respects the process. But I think a guy like Dallas Clark, maybe even more so, because I love that story that he tells, when he's a rookie in 2003, he's in the huddle and he's asking himself, like, why am I here? Looking around, you've got Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and Edgerrin James and Peyton Manning and Tarek Glenn, who all, by the way, are in the Ring of Honor. Right. You're looking like, why am I some goofball kid from Iowa that played linebacker, at the beginning of his college career? Why am I in this huddle? But he was the missing piece, Bill, to having that offense go from, I hate to say it, from great to really great in terms of the Star Wars numbers of explosivity they put up when they had the football.
Yeah, he could do a little bit of everything. He could get down there and get the 3rd and 3 pass for a first down and catch it and hold on to it, or he can make the big explosive play. Yeah. He was kind of that.
And the key block, too.
Yeah, key block as well. Kind of that versatile tight end that could do a lot of different things, and to fit into the offense that they already had was a big part of why they were successful.
All right, big podcast here today. Again, we're breaking down Colts and Dolphins, week number 7. We'll discuss the return of Anthony Richardson to the offense. Shane Steichen's on record saying, hey, as long as there's no setbacks, which to this point in the week there have not been, Anthony Richardson's going to be the starting quarterback coming up at Lucas Oil Stadium. We're also going to debate how the Colts can get out of neutral, right? They're 3-3 on the season, big stretch of games coming up. How do they get out of neutral after a 3-3 start? And Rigoberto Sanchez is going to be on the podcast here today. I only talk to award winners on this show, so it's a good thing that Rigo fits that criteria. AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, man.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
I think it's almost one of those things where he should have got it 2 weeks ago. And they're like, oh, well, whoops, we didn't do it. Oh, he followed that up with another great performance. So it's only fitting. I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe in a couple weeks if the month comes out and he's AFC Special Teams Player of the Month as well, because the tear he has been on to start this season,
he's been playing some good football.
He has been arguably one of the better players on this team, and we're talking about a punter, but the way he's able to flip the field has just been awesome.
Yep. All right, then we're going to close out the podcast going on a Dolphin cruise, little sunset Dolphin cruise.
Nice.
Figure out how the 2-3 Miami Dolphins can still be dangerous in week number 7 at Lucas Oil Stadium. I love that.
Can dolphins be dangerous? Dolphin animals?
They can hit you with the snout. I
guess so. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
During feeding time, everything's on the table. I guess. I don't know. A little aquamarine here. Marine bio. I'm like George Costanza. Pull the golf ball out of that was a whale.
That's a whale.
Never mind. Strike that from the record here. All right, Anthony Richardson is coming back. Can we focus over here? Let's get down to brass tacks. Anthony Richardson is coming back and hasn't played since that Week 4 game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he looked hot. I mean, he was on fire to start that football game, but through his season so far, completing just 50% of his passes, has the 6 picks. We know that he's only finished 4 out of 23 career games. Casey, I'm going to start with you. Are they making the right decision going back to Anthony Richardson, considering what Joe Flacco has done to steady the ship and has given the Colts a great chance to win all of the games he's been in so far?
Absolutely they are. I mean, it's one of those things. We've kind of talked about it over the last couple of weeks, but when Anthony Richardson is healthy, he is your quarterback. You stick with him. And ultimately, you mentioned that Steelers game, and that was kind of you saw some differences in the beginning of that game that you were hoping you would see as the season periodically went on. And I think part of that gives you a lot of hope that can continue, because you mentioned he was on a roll. He looked good. His footwork looked really good. He looked very confident in the pocket and all of that. So all of that plays into it. But at the end of the day, Anthony Richardson's your starting quarterback. Joe Flacco, tip of the cap. You came in, did exactly what the team needed you to do. Not like it was unexpected, because this is just kind of what Joe Flacco does. But yes, I think absolutely making the right decision.
All right, next step of that conversation, Bill, do you anticipate the Colts treating Anthony Richardson differently with the play calling or the strategy or just the overall scheme, considering his injury history that has shown up again this year?
Right. I would say going forward, you would look at, the one thing they want to do is make sure he's healthy before he got back out in the field.
Yeah.
So you assume that he's going to be healthy going back out there on the football field. And I would think initially you probably would be a little cautious, just don't want to get him exposed to possibly being injured again. So I would say that there'll be less design runs for him at the beginning of his time as he goes on. But I think as he gets more comfortable, maybe not this week, maybe the following weeks, that you'll start seeing him back at what he was doing before as far as the number of runs he has and what he does out there in the football field. But I think initially he'd probably be a little bit cautious, but showing something that maybe he can run just to get the defenses of the Miami Dolphins just to make sure that, hey, look, we have to respect him running the football, but maybe not running as much.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I see your premise, but I'm saying, like, if Anthony Richardson, if he's out there, you got to go. You got to run. You got to operate that car if the engine's running, because that's why you drafted the guy, and that's why you have to take advantage of his skill set. I mean, he's here for a reason, no?
Yeah, I agree with you, but like I said, like that's the car, get it running.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to warm up the car.
All right.
You have to get the car warmed up.
Fair.
So maybe the first week.
It's like 32 degrees out. You got to scrape the ice shield.
Exactly. You got to warm up the car a little bit. So maybe you get him back into it gradually.
There you go.
And then once he's back into it, then you can say, okay, we're going to do it like we plan to do it at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. So I think maybe I'm in kind of agreement with both, because I agree with what Bill is saying, but then also there's a part of me that feels like maybe that's why he hasn't played, because you would have to gradually get in, and ultimately you want to be able to use everything that Anthony Richardson has on the field.
Yeah.
So that
because if he goes back and plays in Tennessee and he's only 75% of being able to do some of those design runs, well, let's not do that.
Exactly. So maybe that is kind of that slippery slope that you're dealing with Anthony Richardson, because the skill set, as we've talked about ad nauseum, that's why you draft him where you do, because of everything that he gives you. So if he's going to be just the, pocket passer,
Anthony Richardson will never be just a pocket passer.
He's just not that guy. So ultimately you can't have, so I guess maybe I'm probably a little bit more siding with you, because maybe that's what this last week was, because he talked to the media last week saying he is feeling better. We saw him practice every single day out there, but he wasn't able to go on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what it was. It was, you know what, that was kind of his ramp-up period, and this week he'll be able to go ready full.
Yeah, I tend to think that if let's get him back to as close to 100% as you possibly can be here in week number 7, and then the playbook is wide open. Yeah. Let's not risk it there. But I agree with you, too, in the sense that I think this is the conversation now. This is the franchise conundrum going forward until Anthony Richardson proves he can continue to stay healthy and finish these football games. Bill, I think it's always safe to wonder if it's going to be in the back of Shane Steichen's mind, Chris Ballard's mind on how we're using him, and are we putting him in harm's way too often considering the brief history so far, since he's been here, drafted in 2023.
Exactly. That's what they have to think about. I mean, they want to think, they're thinking long term.
Sure.
And you're thinking about someone that you want to be here for a long time, to be the quarterback of your team, to be able to go out there and make those big plays.
It's such a catch-22.
It is. It's tough.
At some point, you're going to have to take the bumper off.
Exactly.
We're not, this isn't a kid's party anymore.
Take the training wheels off eventually.
You got to take the bumpers off the lane.
Exactly. Eventually, you got to do that and just say, hey, let him go. And this is what he does well.
Yeah.
We have to do it and let him go. And just take your chances that way. But I think right now, just let's see if we get an opportunity to get a number of games back to back to back, so he can be healthy and play and go out there and show what he can do.
But I think we can all agree, though, like if the game's on the line on Sunday,
no doubt,
Anthony Richardson,
no doubt, he's going to have to run the ball. If he has to run the ball and he has to get a first down and has to run over somebody, well, he's going to have to do that. Let's go.
That's why you're out there. And he's shown earlier in the season he did that.
Yeah, he did do that earlier in the season.
Over at the goal line. All right, so here we go. The Colts are going into Week 7. They're 3-3, and I thought this was fascinating in terms of symmetry. All right, you guys know I'm a numbers guy. So even record through 6 games. The Colts have scored 139 points on the season. They've also allowed 139 points in the season. So you can't be any more neutral than the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't know if that's a good word to describe a football team. So, Bill, let's go through an exercise. Give me your recipe for success. How to get this car for the Colts out of neutral in this game.
Wow, that's a big question there. I would say one. I'm just going to go through a couple points for me. Be better to giveaway takeaway ratio. Mm-hmm. I think do better in regards to taking the ball away, giving the ball back to your offense so they can score some points. After that, I would say time of possession. Yeah. Let's move the ball down the field and get some points out of it, but win the time of possession. And I would say from after that, I would say be better against the run.
Yeah.
Defensively, do better against the run. They have to do better against the run because, it goes with time of possession. It goes with getting your offense back on the field. It goes with not being able to give those big explosive plays when you're out there on the field and you're being exhausted, things like that. So those are some of my recipes in regards to being out there on the football field. And I would say defensively, improve on third down as well.
Yeah.
So those are some of my points that I think if they can do those things, I think that will help get them out of neutral, have an opportunity to score more points, and definitely keep teams off the scoreboard as well. Yeah,
getting out of neutral, Casey, I think is important to get a little bit of a head start, get this car rolling a little bit, and that's a bad metaphor because if you look ahead at the schedule coming up now, all right, here we go. We got Houston, you got Minnesota who's undefeated, then you got the Bills, then you got the Lions, then you got the Jets. Things are about to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's one of those things when I looked at the schedule initially, I said, man, that 4 out of 5 on the road 4 out of 5 on the road, 3 of them being the AFC South opponents, that's your toughest stretch. But I didn't look further because you throw in the back half of that road stand. I mean, it is a gauntlet here, October into November for sure. But I agree with a handful of what Bill said. My biggest one is pressure. Because I feel like the pressure the last couple weeks now, in some ways it's justified. They've been quarterbacks getting the ball out really, really quick. So a lot of that is, Zaire Franklin, I love one of the comments that he made. He was like, Trevor Lawrence getting the ball out quick, we weren't tackling well. That's why they had some explosive plays. When Will Levis getting the ball out quick, we're able to wrap some of these guys up. It eliminates some of that. But I think ultimately, when you have weapons like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you've got to make it so difficult on the quarterback, whether it's me playing quarterback or Tyler Huntley. You have to be uncomfortable back there because you don't want the ball in their hands. So I think it is imperative this weekend to create pressure, because that's going to be the biggest recipe for success for this defense because of what those guys do. And then offensively, kind of what we're Bill talking about with time possession, that's on both sides. But I think sustaining drives, there is nothing wrong with a 9, 12, big play drive, keep that defense tired on the field, get your defense re-energized. I think those are so important because it's really hard. You have a big defensive stand and you go 3 and out, all of a sudden it doesn't mean anything. So I really think that those are my 2 big keys, is offensively sustaining drives and defensively creating some pressure.
Yeah, pressure is huge. 0 sacks in each of the last 2 games, only 2 tackles for loss combined in each of the last 2 games. I think you have to go back 6 years for the Colts to go back-to-back games without a sack on defense.
Wow.
And there's no doubt the quarterbacks have been getting the ball out quickly. But as you said, and you're spot on, the tackling in the Tennessee game was much better than it was the week before down in Jacksonville. All right, good recipes right there to get the Colts out of neutral. Every time I hear the word neutral, I think like Mike's car wash. The guy with the neutral, please. Put it in neutral.
They used to do this thing, but now they just have the paddle.
Forward, little left, neutral. When did Brian Regan start working at Mike's car wash?
I was going to let
Put
you
it in neutral. Yeah, that neutral, please. Somebody that's not in neutral, somebody please save us. All right, neutral is not how you're going to describe Rigoberto Sanchez. My man's on fire. That leg is pedal to the metal coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, Rigoberto Sanchez. He was able to talk with us earlier today on the official Colts podcast. Check it out. All right, it's time now to visit with the reigning AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. Colts punter Rigoberto Sanchez is that man indeed. Rigo, first off, congratulations. You had so many clutch punts in Tennessee, but the biggest one, or the most notable one, was that 57-yarder at the end of the game, under 20 seconds left. You put it right on the money. That thing lands inside the 5. It dies at the 3. You were jacked up, man. What was going through your mind when you hit that, and the adrenaline rush you got from that great performance?
I mean, obviously it was a big moment, but it's kind of like the kickers. You got to go out there and just execute your job at hand. And we all knew that had to happen, to close out the game in a way. But it was definitely a crazy moment, crazy situation. I was definitely hyped after that play. I looked on the sideline, everybody's giving me the flex, so then I gave him the flex back. But it was a great moment.
Yeah, I mean, where does that rank in your career in terms of like most hyped up you've been? Because you did flex the muscles, and rightfully so. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was hyped. I think it was the moment, and I think my teammates were hyped, so I think it got me a little hyped too. So
yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, that thing just perfectly died right at the 3-yard line. Didn't go in the end zone. Didn't go out of bounds. Colts were able to down it. I mean, it was almost like you had a GPS in the ball, like a remote control, and you just said, all right, sit right there. I mean, was that one of the more precise punts you've had in your career?
I mean, including practice, I mean, I don't know. You kind of just go out, and you try to do your job, and the football gods were on my side, obviously, on that one. And, I went out there with that mentality of just doing my job and doing it for my teammates. And, it played out the way it played out. But, I wish I could do that every single punt,
Sure. Well, you have more often than not, all right? In fact, here, you lead the NFL in punts landed inside the 20-yard line. You have 17 of those punts. And I looked it up today. Of those 17 punts landed inside the 20-yard line, so you're pinning teams deep. But the Colts defense has allowed points after just 5 of those punts. All right, so analytically, you're doing your job and you're impacting the game and you're swinging momentum. Do you realize at the time how important those punts are to the success of this team?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it takes the whole unit to go accomplish that. I'm the one that punts the ball, but the Gunners are doing a tremendous job, Ashton and everybody else, and everybody else that's protecting for me. Obviously starts with a snap with Luke and, just building that chemistry every single game, every single practice. But definitely important, a big part of our job, and we just go out there and try to swing away.
Rigoberto Sanchez with us, and I love to kind of nerd out. I mean, I love football, all aspects of it. At what point on the field do you decide what strategy you want to use in terms of, I'm aiming for the 20 or I'm aiming for inside the 10, and what kind of spin and what kind of spiral you want to put on the ball, or an end-over-end punt? How does that kind of factor in?
Yeah, it definitely varies from time to time on the position on the field you are in. The closer you are to the 50-yard line, you want to hit the end-over-end ball. But it just all depends. If you're backed up a little bit, you want to swing away, but at the end of the day, you want to get that net punt. So it's like you got to put away that ego punting, that big ball. Everybody in the league can do it. Yeah. But it's really giving your guys a fair chance to be able to go make a play down the field, and it's like there's no point of out kicking your coverage. So it's like you pick and choose your battles, and obviously every game's a little different. The returns are good everywhere around the league. So You just got to take it one punt at a time and try to do your job so the other guys can play around you too.
So for punters around the NFL, it's really all about the net, right? Like you said, the gross, everybody's got a huge leg at this level. It's all about where you're putting the ball and giving your coverage team, putting them in a position to have success to be able to cover the punt.
For sure. No, that's definitely important. The coaches always harp on that, and it's something that we take pride on, Here and there, obviously, you kind of get one, and it lets loose, and it just kind of goes a little too far. But it also gives the opportunity for other players to make the plays, and but you just got to go out there and execute your job at hand.
And for punters, touchbacks are a punter's worst nightmare, and you only have 2 of them since the start of last year. What's been your key to keep the ball out of the end zone?
Yeah, you just try to kick the ball high, and just let like I said, your gunners do their job, and just take it one punt at a time.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, what's the biggest difference between punting inside at Lucas Oil Stadium when the roof is closed compared to when it's open, and also, when you're outside in the elements like you were last week in Tennessee?
It lets you do your job a little bit better. You don't have to worry too much about the drop. I mean, you still worry about it, but when you're outdoors like we were in Tennessee, the wind was blowing crosswind, and then it would stop and it would go the other direction. So it's like definitely an advantage to have the roof closed, and we're really excited every time that happens. So,
do you have input on game day?
No, we don't. We just hope. We're just hopeful,
Well, we know where Rigo's vote is when it comes to weather inside Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's keep that roof closed. All right, you're also a busy man holding for Matt Gay. How much do you still enjoy that part of your role with this team?
Absolutely. I mean, every single day we get some work in. Got to give a big shout out to Brandon Seitz, one of our equipment managers. He does a tremendous job every single week, helps me out, throws me underhands, and we're out there working every single day. Yeah. Getting extra reps, but it's nice to be out there and try to contribute and do my best for Matt. He's a tremendous talent, and the whole league knows it, and we're really lucky to have him.
Yeah. Well, you came in here as a rookie in 2017, and you had never held before, and all of a sudden you're being asked to do that for a future Hall of Famer, some guy named Adam Vinatieri. How much better of a holder are you now compared to 7-8 years ago?
I'm definitely way more comfortable, and that's the reason why I still practice every single day. Obviously I didn't do it before in college, but ever since, it was like a mentality of every day getting reps, and wanting to do the best for him, and it's definitely been a, work in progress. But I think it's just more comfortable. The more reps, the more years I've been in playing and holding, the easier it has gotten. But you just still got to work at it, It's like everything else. Still work on punting,
Sure. You mentioned the equipment staff helping you. Is your wife still helping you?
I know
at one point she was still in the living room with you.
She's amazing, man. She's always helping me out. She's obviously, we got a newborn, so she's taking over at night, and she does an amazing job to honestly let me go and do my job the best I can. So shouts out to my wife.
Well, pretty soon you're going to have some youngsters that are going to be able to snap to you.
Right.
Work on both parts of your game there. Yeah. Hey, let's go back to punting before we close out. How much film do you watch every week of the opponent's top return man, and how much does that factor into how you're trying to go about your business?
Yeah, I usually watch a ton of film. I watch the returners and the way they catch the ball, going right, going left, and I kind of see their, what they like to do and what they don't.
Yeah.
I go back sometimes even a couple years of what they've done in the past as well. And then I dig around the league, around just what other punters are doing against good returns as well. So it's like I'm just trying to apply everything I can to my game. Everybody's good in this league, so you just got to keep learning.
All right, how about this guy on Sunday then, Braxton Berrios? I think he ranked 6th in punt return yardage since he broke in the league in 2019.
For sure, he's a great returner. Like I said, everybody's great returning back there. They're electric, and you just got to be able to go out there and trust your swing and punt the ball up, and have the rest of the guys help you out as well. So it'll be fun.
No doubt. All right, I love talking to award winners. That's this guy right here, Special Teams Player of the Week, Rigoberto Sanchez. Rigo, thanks as always for your time, man. Good luck in Week 7.
Thank you very much.
Rigo Sanchez, man, I love that story. We've all been there, right, where we need a little bit of help. His wife, when he's a rookie, and I'm not sure if they were married back then, so let's just say like significant other at the time.
Right.
His wife is in the living room snapping the ball to Rigo Sanchez so he can hone his skills. No pressure, by the way. He's holding for an all-time great in Adam Vinatieri at the time. I love stories like that, man.
Why should there be any pressure?
I know.
Of course there's pressure. Of course there's pressure on him. So, but that's great, though. You have your significant other helping you out, and that's tremendous. And he took it very seriously, and she was supporting him,
no doubt,
by helping him with snapping the ball. So
that's
a great
awesome. Family. They are a wonderful family.
Nice family, and he's a great guy.
Yeah,
I've always thought about that. I mean, you think about the situation that Rigo came to the Colts. You're replacing Pat McAfee, who arguably for however long he was here, was it 8 years, something around there?
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the best punters in the game. And now you see what he has done, and then the guy kicking the ball in Adam Vinatieri. I mean, those shoes to fill, and he has filled them with ease. I mean, he has been so steady. One of our favorite guys in the locker room, and I'm very, very excited to see his success continue, because after that awful injury he had in 22, you aren't really sure how you're going to come back from that, and he has definitely picked up right where he left off.
Yeah, great dude. So thanks again to Rigo for joining us today on the Official Colts podcast. All right, let's wrap it up here. Big game on Sunday. We haven't really talked much about the Dolphins, so let's go on our Dolphin cruise here to wrap up. You ever been on a Dolphin cruise on vacation?
I've never been on a Dolphin cruise.
Really?
No, never been on a Dolphin cruise.
Oh, my mother-in-law, she's screaming at you. That's a staple. All right, we have to go see the Dolphins.
I apologize.
There's a pod over there. Swim over. When did Brian Regan? I'd swear.
All over Brian Regan.
He worked at Mike Car Wash.
He's coming to Indianapolis, so I understand. That's why.
All right, the Dolphin cruise here. We have to focus first on our dynamic duo with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. These two guys have recorded 7 games together in which both of them topped over 100 yards receiving since they became teammates in 2022. Hill leads the NFL in receiving and everything, basically, since he broke in the league in 2016. Last year led the NFL in receiving yards, almost 1,800 yards. Think about that. He had almost 1,800 yards in the NFL a year ago. Waddle, meanwhile, is close to 3,500 yards, ranks 3rd among receivers drafted in the 2021 NFL draft. But despite those big numbers, because of the injury to Tua, the quarterback, and Tyler Huntley, listen, they're just not pushing the ball down the field. They're not explosive. The offense is very pedestrian, scoring only 12 points per game, which, by the way, is last in the NFL. So, Bill, the explosivity is not there. The running game's kind of mediocre. And Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just over there saying, how can we get involved in the game, even though our quarterback is not able to push it deep down the field here?
Well, I think you still need to, even though they haven't put up those big numbers as they have in the past, they're still dangerous.
Yeah, they're still on the field, man.
Yeah, they're on the field, so you have to be aware of where they're at. And they like to move Tyreek Hill around a lot. They use him in motion. They put him in the backfield. They'll put him out wide, of course, put him in the slot. So they like to move him around. So you have to be aware of where Tyreek Hill is. And you know what? They have enough weapons out there to be dangerous. You know, they have Mostert. They have, depending on Achane might be playing. So it just depends on, his health, if he's going to be playing or not. But they have weapons.
Yeah.
And so you have to be aware of those guys. And Tyreek Hill he's special. That's being obvious, but he's just special. So you have to make sure that you keep him in front of you. I mean, with all that speed, he is dangerous. So they still can be dangerous, even though they haven't put up those big numbers and been explosive, as we have seen in the past. But with the bye week they had, I'm sure they've worked on some things to try to get those guys involved in the offense a little bit more. So they're going to do some different things. So they definitely have to be aware from the defensive side of the ball for the Colts.
By the way, fun fact, Tyreek Hill is playing the Colts for the first time since his rookie season.
Really?
Has not played the Colts since 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, was banged up a couple of different times when the Colts played Kansas City.
Okay.
So, individually, first time that Tyreek Hill plays the Colts since his rookie season.
Nice
As I said, last year, led the NFL in receiving. This year, ranks 38th because of the quarterback. And both Waddle and Tyreek Hill, Casey, they're on pace to go under 1,000 yards.
Would that be the first of their careers?
Since they became teammates in 2022. But
wow.
I mean, Tyreek Hill is routinely over 1,000 yards by week 9.
Yes, I mean that's the craziest part. I mean, I know that you don't put a whole lot of stock into certain rankings and stuff when it comes out that's during the offseason, but NFL.com does their 100 best players in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's voted on by the players, and they voted him the first. I mean, he's number 1.
Yeah.
First time ever a wide receiver has,
so.
and that just shows you the impact. I mean, he does it. I mean, Bill talked about it. They move him all over the place. I mean, he's got 7 touchdowns as a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, he does it all kinds of ways. So it has been interesting to see his stat line without Tua, because you think of an explosive player and what he can do. But I think that defenses are kind of allowing him to have that underneath, as long as they're not allowing him to get those explosive plays, because that's kind of how he broke it off in week 1 to get the victory over Houston. They bottled him up, and then all of a sudden there he goes, 80 yards for a touchdown, and that's what he can do in the snap of a finger. So that's what defenses are doing. I'm assuming you're going to see a lot of that this weekend, is making sure that you don't see Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle behind anybody. I mean, you may even have the defensive line say, you know what, we're going to come back too, because that's how impactful these guys are, and that's what the Colts have to make sure they keep those guys bottled up.
Just think, last year he was embarking on possibly catching 2,000 yards, catching for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
I mean,
he almost caught for 2,000 yards as a wide receiver.
100%.
That's how dangerous he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how dangerous he is. He's just so explosive.
That's like from here to Miami. That's just probably longer than that.
2,000 receiving yards.
Holy smokes. Somebody give me a map. All right, let's talk about the Dolphins' defense. A very good defense. They've held 4 or 5 opponents to under 200 yards through the air, and they are the number 1 defense on third down, giving up just 25%. In fact, they've given up more than just 3 third down conversions in a game only one time this season. All right. Wow. So they get off the field, a lot of 3-and-outs. So what's going to be problematic, Casey, when the Colts are on offense, Anthony Richardson coming back, what's going to be problematic for the Colts to move the ball against this defense?
Well, I mean, you have to start with Jalen Ramsey. He's one of the best corners in football and has been for a really long time. You go back to his days in Jacksonville. That was early in his career. He was dynamic, in those battles when you took him on a couple times a year, and he's just gotten better. And he is as shut down of a corner as they get. And then you look on the other side with Fuller. He's a great player as well. They're back in. They're a little banged up with Poyer and Holland, but it looks like they're going to give it a go.
Yeah.
Both those guys, very, very solid. So their secondary, that group of 4 might be one of the best you're going to see in all of football. So that's where it kind of starts. But then up front, guys like Calais Campbell, I mean, he's been doing it at a high level for such a long time. They invested a first-round pick in Chop Robinson. With the injury to Jalen Phillips, he's going to have a lot more run. So they haven't seen a lot out of him yet, but he's got a lot of tools to be a really good player. Emmanuel Ogbah's a good player. So you look at kind of all levels of their defense. They've got pretty impact players.
Don't forget
all
Chop.
over the field.
You forgot Chop.
I mean, exactly.
Come on now. Mr. Chop Robinson.
It's a good group. It really is. And I'm not shocked by the numbers. I know that some of them might be skewed because if you look at some of the teams they have played, it hasn't been, but at the end of the day, it's very similar to what we talked about with Tennessee. They may not have a whole bunch of guys that when you think about house name players that you're running, but they are very, very solid. And all starts in my eyes with Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me with a defense in regards to the Miami Dolphins that just like Tennessee a lot. I think they do a lot of things well for their defense. And when you do a lot of things well, especially being number one on third down, that's to me is huge. If they can continue to do that, that helps them out quite a bit, getting other teams off the field on third down. So the Colts are going to have to try to find a way to move the ball, get first downs, keep them on the field, actually, to wear them out, hopefully, get them tired, and so Colts can hopefully score some points and give our defense a break and not give them opportunities to make those explosive plays as far as the Miami Dolphins is concerned on offense.
All right, fellas, wrapping up our Dolphin cruise, tell me something I don't know about this game. I know you guys both do your research. I know you dig deep. Is there anything about this matchup we need to know that we haven't hit? Tell me something about this matchup that I don't know yet, Casey.
Tell me something you don't know. I mean, that's a tough question because there's a lot that I don't know, if that makes sense. Because this team, we've talked about it, so it's not like I'm, breaking news here, but they're so injury. I mean, the Dolphins are so injury riddled that it's hard to find a whole bunch that I was unaware of, if that makes sense. The weapons on offense, but their defense, it's just they have so many guys that are not there. They are a really good defense, but they're going to be without Bradley Chubb. He's still on PUP. Yep. He's one of the better pass rushers in the game. I mentioned Jalen Phillips not out there. So I hate to not answer your question, but there's a lot of unknowns that I have due to the unknowns of who's going to be on the field for Miami.
So you're just copping out saying, I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet.
In a way. Yeah, like I think the puzzle is finished, but this puzzle is a little jumbled because those pieces aren't in play.
Yeah. They have 5 guys who are eligible to come off of PUP this week.
Yes.
Right.
Or I should say IR, I beg your pardon. Correct. A lot of guys that are eligible to return. By the way, speaking of that, DeForest Buckner is eligible to return this week, but it's sounding a little murky as if he's going to be able to do that this week. We'll keep an eye on that the rest of the week, but to this point has not practiced. So maybe in all likelihood, the earliest he comes back is next week against the Houston Texans. Bill, anything that we've missed, anything that we need to know about?
No, I don't think anything you missed. I think we've talked about it before in regards to, from a Miami Dolphins offensive standpoint, as far as the running backs with Mostert and Achane, but also Jalen Wright, rookie, that they have that's pretty good. It's done a nice job for them thus far this year. So something that the Colts have to be aware of. And also, we touched on this also in regards to Tyreek Hill and Waddle, that after the first game of the season where they both had over 100 yards receiving, neither of them have had over 70 yards receiving.
That's what I'm talking
in a
about.
game.
Yes! Finally, we get a nugget. Hell yeah!
Neither of them have over 70 yards in a game thus far. So you see how not having Tua there has affected them as far as those guys playing and those numbers being bigger than what they've usually have in regards to what they have done in the past. They have not made those big plays thus far. So
I'm a liar. I've got a good nugget. All right. I apologize.
We'll allow it.
They have been outscored, the Dolphins. So we've talked about the offense averaging just 12 points per game.
Yeah.
They have been outscored in the first half by 48 points.
There you go.
Okay?
Yep, there you go.
48 points in the first half.
Get on them early.
That is a lot. So that is a key in this game on Sunday for the Colts. I'm sorry that I took Bill to refresh my memory on that. But that is what I'm going. You have to get on them early. You got to score.
You just had to get stuck out of neutral.
That's exactly right.
We had to get you out of neutral.
It all comes back.
It all comes back.
I like it.
There you go.
Yeah, get on them early. Hey, you brought up Raheem Mostert, pride of Purdue.
Yes,
Casey's a huge Purdue fan.
Yep.
I mean, was he a stud at Purdue? I can't remember.
I'll be honest.
Was he the bell cow guy?
He was a bell cow guy, but he was just another running back. He just kind of shuffled through. He had a couple of years, and that was it. You didn't expect him to have the career he's had. I think he's going on maybe year 10 in the NFL. I mean, last year he led the NFL in total touchdowns.
How about this? There's a nugget for you. You got 21 total touchdowns.
Unreal.
For Raheem Mostert, the pride of Purdue. He actually became the first Dolphin to lead the NFL in total touchdowns since Mercury Morris.
Wow.
Back in 1972. Undrafted guy, too.
Yes.
Wow.
Undrafted guy. 18 rushing touchdowns, 21 total. He's back, too.
Weren't you saying that combined him and Tua last year had 50?
Tua, last year, Tua Tagovailoa and Raheem Mostert combined for 50 total touchdowns.
50 total touchdowns.
That's a lot.
I mean, this year, and that's the wild thing. I mean, you think about this team, a lot of those pieces are still there, but the injuries have caused them to just average 12 points a game.
12 points per game, and since Tua's been out, they're only averaging 10 points per game.
Wow.
All right, so there's a lot of sluggishness about this offense, but it's hard to say that when you have an offense that features Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You're right. I mean, that's a volcano waiting to explode if you're not on your P's and Q's coming up on Sunday. Speaking of that, Bill, is this I know you're not. You're the math guy, all right? So you look at the numbers, you look at the big picture, but just hear me out here. You got a home game, then 2 more on the road, 2 tough places to play: Houston, Minnesota. Then you got the Bills coming up, like we talked about earlier, and also the Colts have 3 losses. Miami has 3 losses. Plus, it's a head-to-head game inside the AFC, so conference implications. There's tiebreaker stuff here involved potentially towards the end of the season if it comes to that. Is this a? Can you concede it's a? It would be nice to have a game.
You can't even say the word yourself.
Yeah. I'm saying it's a must-win game. You know me. I think they're all must-win. Yes, you got to freaking have them all. But can you at least meet me halfway on that?
This is a very important game for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a conference game, yes.
I would prefer them to win.
It's a conference game against an opponent that, you know what, you never know what's going to happen down the road as far as when it comes to playoff implications. So you want to win all your AFC South games. You want to win all your AFC games, definitely. So it is an important game. Plus, as you said, the games we have coming up, the Colts have coming up, are very tough.
Yeah.
The next couple of weeks with the Jets, the Detroit Lions, the Vikings, the Bills, all those guys. So it's going to be very.
My point is, and not to steal a line from Rick Venturi, but he's right. I mean, when you're in the valley of the bad offenses, this might be. No disrespect, this might be the worst one, right? In terms of, backup quarterback, shaky offensive line, scoring only 12 points per game. My point is, you got to get this.
You have to take advantage of the opportunity right now that you have because Tua's not playing. They're struggling offensively. They're not putting up a lot of points, and hopefully you can put up a lot of points, and the defense comes around and stops them. Yeah. And of course, you do a nice job. So I think it is an important game. I would say that. It's a very important game, so they need to get this one. These are ones you need to win, especially at home. You want to win your home games, definitely, but you need to win this game because this is a game that you should win. Yeah. And so you should take advantage of those opportunities.
You know I love you.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you guys love to give me a hard time on that.
Sorry, Bill. I'm with you, Matt. I think this is.
Sorry, Bill.
That's all right. I'm alone.
You're on the Dolphin cruise by yourself.
I'm on myself.
The biggest thing I think of is when you look at. I know it's really early to start looking at the playoff seedings, but right now the season ends today. The Colts are sitting there at the 7th seed in the playoffs. You are a playoff team right now. This game against the Dolphins in Week 17 will look completely different because of the players they're going to have on the field. So how important it is to get a victory now and keep the Dolphins from starting to catch their rise because they're going to start getting healthier. So you want to make sure that they have an even bigger hole to climb out of because you mentioned the tough schedule the Colts have. You've got to take advantage of these games now, and I think that starts with Miami because when Tua gets back, that offense they're going to start rolling. Yeah, that it's an offense. I'm sure that they're all talking about in Miami. Once we get everybody back, we're not as worried about what we look at like right now because it's going to start going. Yeah. You want to be able to take advantage of that team because having a tiebreak over a Miami team now is a lot different than having one in Week 17 where things are a lot different.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's not who you play; it's when you play them. Right? Yep. You hear that in baseball a lot with starting pitchers and stuff. But with the starting pitcher for the Dolphins being out and Tua, let's go. Yep. I think it's a really important game. Plus, it's the only time that fans can see the Colts here in the month of October because of all these road games. 4 out of 5 on the road, so take advantage while you can. Hopefully we see everybody at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday, and it's also a great way to tip of the cap and pay homage to the great Dallas Clark.
Go ahead and say it, Matt. You can say it. It's a must-win game.
It is.
Go ahead. You said important earlier, but you said go ahead and say it.
Let me do it in the Brian Regan voice. Gotta win this one. Would be nice to get it.
This will be the Halloween game then, right? Isn't that always? I mean, with them not. I mean, so bring your costumes. I mean, hey.
Yeah.
Let's
scary.
Come on.
Right. That's scary in itself.
I bring my costume every week. Sorry, guys.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully the Colts defense. You guys said it. Hopefully the Colts defense takes advantage of a Tua-less Dolphins team. The Colts last week were really good in the fourth quarter. Goose egg in the fourth quarter against the Tennessee Titans. Looking to capitalize. All right. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier. I'm Matt Taylor. That's going to do it for podcast number 2 of the week here on the official Colts podcast channel on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network. We got Colts and Dolphins 1 o'clock on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. All the radio coverage begins at 10 a.m. on our flagship stations in Indianapolis, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, and 97.1 Hank FM. We'll talk to you next Tuesday with Jeffrey and his crew. We'll be back next Thursday breaking down Colts and Texans round number 2. But until then, go Colts. Have a great weekend, and thanks for listening and watching here on the official Colts podcast.